This time on the UK Brewery Project, it's Northern Monk. Russell Bissett founded Northern Monk in 2013. Russell was working as a global product manager at Rockwood Holdings in their inorganic pigment section. Chemicals he was working with. He already had conceived the idea for Northern Monk in 2008 after discovering the US craft beer scene, particularly on his travels work over there. His gran had given him £5,000 from the sale of her home as she moved into, I believe, a council home she bought out and was selling up and give the grandkids some money. And with this, he decided to take the plunge and start his brewery idea. As you would expect, it became apparent very quickly that 5k was not enough to start a brewery. Russell approached David Bishop, who was an award-winning home brewer, and asked for him to join him at his new venture. David's task was to design and brew the beers, whilst Russell would focus on the branding and promoting the beers. David had stated that he'd been approached by another person before Russell and had turned him down, but it was Russell's approach and energy that convinced him to agree to work for him. Russell and David spent the first few months working on the business plan, visiting breweries, and of course, drinking beer. They'd managed to convince Hamilton's Ales Brewery in North Yorkshire to let them cuckoo brew on their equipment. Now, Hamilton's focus was mainly on golden ales and bitters, whereas the duo were wanting to add large quantities for dry hopping and fermenting the beers for a longer period, which is not something Hamilton's normally do on their equipment. Their first two beers on Hamilton's equipment were New World IPA and Stranick Imperial Stout. The New World IPA is still one of their core beers. Sadly, as you can see, I don't have that one available to me. So what I am going to do is I'm going to open up probably one of the most popular beers, and that's Faith. Now, I'm hoping I'm picking the right one here. Yes, just always double check. Let's get this can cracked open, and I'm going to put it into my contact glass, but it will do at that stage to show off this hazy beer. I said I think this is their biggest selling one. It is available for all the supermarkets as well. Let's just put that one down. Actually, just double check, 5.4%, so in the premium range at that stage. Look at that, very hazy, nice straw colour to it. And the nose straight away, oh, that is a beautiful nose. You can see why that's a top seller. Oh, that smells great. Let's tuck in. Haven't had a alcoholic beer at all today. Oh, yeah, that is refreshing. It may not be the hottest day out there, but that hits the spot nicely. So, as said, this is one of the first beers, and Northern Monk held a launch party at the Sparrow Pub in Bradford, and that was on the 18th of July 2013, and they showed off their two new beers. Although, if you speak to them, they will admit the first batches weren't quite up to their hopes or expectations due to limitations at the Hamilton brewery. As I said, it was set up for ales. Sadly, in September of that year, we'd having to juggle a young family, a full-time day job alongside brewing for Northern Monk. David Bishop stepped down from his role as the head brewer. Although brewerless, Russell pushed on. His launch and in subsequent appearance at beer festivals had raised awareness of his brand, and he was actually able to attract some investors and get some funding. With that funding, Russell was able to find and purchase a 10-barrel brewing kit, 3 fermenters, and he also located a perfect building. It was the old flax store, a former linen mill, just outside Leeds town centre. Russell had advertised for a full-time head brewer, and Brian Dickinson stepped forward. Brian was working as a bar manager, but on the side had been learning to brew via internships at breweries across the UK. I did read a funny story of how he applied for the job in person at the Leeds International Beer Festival. It was about 11 p.m. at night. He had quite a lot to drink, and he walked up to Russell and he started spouting stuff. But Russell must have liked what he said when he was drunk, and he gave him the job. The duo went straight to work on fitting out the new brewery, whilst continuing to brew beers at Hambleton in the interim period. Whilst they were waiting for the new brewery site to be ready, the head office was, funnily enough, Russell Mum's dining room, and delivery of the casks that were being delivered to the pubs in Russell's mum's Renault. There you go. They did what you got. The new brewery was finally ready in October 2014. The brewery launched with its own tap room on the first floor that boasted of 16 keg lines and 4 cask lines. 8 or 9 of the beers that would be Northern Monks. And with their new brewery, it's important to say they'd increased their output enough to support having that 8 or 9 beers on. They were producing more beers in 3 days on the new 10-barrel plant than they were producing 6 months cuckoo brewing. So that's a huge step up and increase from where they were. Got to have another sip, sorry. One of the first new beers they produced was Northern Star, which was actually a collaboration with a local coffee roasters who were called North Star. Now, Northern Monk are renowned for collaborating with local businesses to create a beer that is a blend of Northern Monk and what they make or do. And do you know what? I've had this, it's really nice, but all the talk of beer, I've got to crack open another one. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to crack up one that sort of gets my attention, and it's going to be, I believe it's this one here. It's a Citra Light Lager, 4.7%. Just get the can open and pour it into this glass. It's not going to be one for showing the colour off much. It's a Citra Lager. That's what interests me. I do love my Citra. This is a pinter glass. It's not the best for showing off the beer. Slight haze to the lager. There's Citra nose. That's really good. Okay, let's try it. That's really nice. It's very carbonated, I'll say that straight away. It's a lager, but it's very, very carbonated. But it's a very light Citra, I will say that. Very, very light. But it's like a lager in a sense. This beer itself was launched in 2019. And so it's a light adjunct lager. And it's sort of brewed to show that lager doesn't have to be bland. And it's nice. I like it. It's got a slight Citra note to it, but otherwise it's clean and easy to drink. That is a good one, and sessionable, I would say, probably that. Right, so whilst Northern Monk were growing in the UK beer scene, they were relatively unknown outside these shores, and that all changed when in 2016 their Eternal Session IPA won a bronze in the Session IPA category at the World Beer Cup Awards in the US. Now, this was the first time a British brewery had won a medal at an American beer competition in the IPA category, and it was sort of showing that the craft beer scene in the UK was catching up with the American side. So everyone believes that, the American side were leading in the craft beer category, and we were following. But this was the first time, a UK brewery had placed, in a sense, in the category and sort of got attention straight away. The winning of this award also brought them to the attention of the supermarkets, who obviously were well aware of the craft beer trend and were looking for craft beer they could stock themselves. At this stage, Dickinson was brewing 6 days a week on their 10-barrel kits to keep up with the ever-increasing demand. But work was in the pipeline to build a new 30-barrel brewery, which was going to have 8 additional fermenters and a faster canning line that could fill 6,000 cans an hour. And the location for this new brewery was based just over half a mile away. That's always good to have here. And I believe the brewery name is Sydenham Road, they call it, but that's just the road it's based on, isn't it? The funding for the new brewery was raised via crowdfunding with an initial target of £500,000, which they achieved in just 3 hours. They ended up raising over the 13 days £1.5 million. The new brewery opened in April 2017, but it seems it wasn't fully kitted out perhaps until 2018. Brewing continues to this day at both sites. So Northern Monk Estate in Elitra, they're now able to produce 18 beers at one time across their 2 sites, if they so choose to do so. And they are now exporting to over 20 countries. I think it's about 23 or 24 when I last looked, but that may not be accurate. That sort of brings us up to date with the brewery. So let's talk about their beer range. So Northern Monk have placed their beers into a few categories. So the first category would be their core beers. So I said Faith here is as you can see, a 5.4% hazy pale ale. They have New World IPA, which is a 6.2% IPA. Sorry. They have the Eternal, which is a 4.1% session IPA. Origin, which is their gluten-free IPA, coming in at 5.7%. And Northern Star, of course, which is their 5.2% porter. And they have also Striding Edge, which they've labelled as a 2.8% light IPA. And also Heathen, which is a 7.2% IPA. Part of me is, I know I'll get to this point of think, oh, hang on a minute. I'm tempted by this one. And the reason is, it's 2.8%. It's a light IPA. What is a light IPA? So I did have another glass just in case, because I know I might just tempt myself. And I've still got all of these to drink. So this is going to be a fun day. Right, let's pour this in and see how good this light IPA is. The reason I'm sort of saying this is I've had a few actually that are at the 2.8% mark, and they're actually really good. You would tell they're light, but you wouldn't put them down as 2.8. So nose, it's a straw nose, yeah. Hops and straws in there, slightly hazy. Let's taste it. Yeah, that's okay. Bit disappointing. That's quite low in flavour. I said the straw nose comes through into that sort of flavour, but yeah, I was expecting a bit more punch at that stage. It's nice, but you can tell it's kind of low in ABV. They also do a seasonal range of beers. So they do a Neapolitan, which is a 6.2% ice cream pale ale, which I think they first started brewing for a local, I'm going to say dessert parlour, I can't remember, and then it proved so popular they've turned it into a seasonal release at that stage outside of there. The aptly named Death, which is a 12% impy stout of theirs. They've got Glory, which is a 10.5% triple IPA. Honor, which is also a 10.5% triple IPA. Valor, which is a 10.5% barley wine. You see where these names are going. They do a seasonal version of the Northern Star called Festive Star, which is a 5.2% vanilla, cinnamon, and chocolate porter. I think they do a bourbon barrel-aged stout, which is 11%. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. And then also one of the big seasonal ones, which I think is coming back out right now, is Transient, which is a hazy 7-ish% double dry hopped IPA. They also do a range called Twist, and just that's sort of one of the twists. So these are limited edition variations of their core and seasonal beers. So some example is they do Day of the Death, Def, which is 11% Impy Stout, based off their 12% Def Impy Stout. Double Heaven, which is 10% Imperial IPA. Not quite the double 7.2, but I understand it's double IPA. And obviously the Mango Lassie Heaven, which is the same percentage at 7.2. But that is, I think that's going to be a really good one at that stage. It's going to have lactose in there, no doubt, as well. They also do what they call patrons, which are short-run collabs. The beers, as I said before, they collab with companies or other breweries, like other companies like bakeries and things like that. They're on to what they call Series 32. I think they released 7 in each series. And the recent ones that they've released in this new, Series 32, they've got Saints Croissants, which I think is the place they're partnering with, and it's a 14% Imperial Banana Cronut Stout, which sounds amazing. And then Edward Street Bakery, they've got a 9% Peanut Butter and Jam Cornflake Tart Stout. Both sound delicious at that stage. They also do their OFS project. It's named after the original site, the old Flax store, and these are, in a sense, small batch experimental beers. So I have the OFS 048 here on the table, which is a double IPA coming in at 8.5%, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 8.5, yes. And it's a sort of collaboration one as well, this one. And just looking, it says country, East Coast style. It's a very sort of blandish label, but it's a very informative label at that stage. And they've done quite a few in that range as well. And then you've got potentially their one-offs, such as the Ronsills I have over here. Yes, the Ronsill beers. So the Saison, which is a Harvest Gold, and then you've got their Best Bitter, which they call Medium Oak, which I love, does exactly what it says on the tin. There's a few good reviews of these. I bought this when I seen reviews online. I was like, I've got to buy that actually. They've done other ones such as like Aunt Bessie's flavours, and they've also done Seabrook Crisps as well. Right, so awards. Well, Northern Monk have won a lot of awards for their range of beers, but they've also won awards for how they run their business and support local community as well. Just looking at this year alone, they've won awards for their can design, but also for their COVID innovation and support. I'm not going to go into individual awards. There's plenty for all the different SIVA competitions that they've entered and won at that stage. But I think I've rambled enough, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a final sip of this beer. You can tell why Faith's their biggest seller at that stage. And this has been the UK Brewery Project. I'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.